ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit of the WoW podcast, Blue Please on CynicalBrits.com. This is part 3 of the Warlock guide for Cataclysm, prepping you. Most of this is applicable to your current patch version as well, by the way, so obviously things are going to change, but this should certainly give you a good piece of groundwork to figure out what's going on with this. And if you're not a Warlock and you're thinking about maybe rolling one, this should be informative for you. If you're not a Warlock and you have no intention of rolling one, well, just keep this in mind, because it's always nice to know what your fellow casters are doing in your raid and what your opposing casters are doing in your battlegrounds. So, we're going to talk about one of the most Warlocky specs. I don't know, it's vying with demonology, because Warlocks are known for two things: summoning demons and sticking loads of dots on people.
Indeed. So, let's have a look at Affliction. We start off, the new spell you get is Unstable Affliction. This is just a very high damage dot, and this basically wholesale replaces Immolate. So you can't have Immolate and Unstable Affliction on the target at the same time, so you have to use an Unstable Affliction. Let's have a look at the talents. Now, Doom and Gloom, the first one, increases your critical strike chance of Bane of Agony and Bane of Doom. I'm pretty sure you're going to be using Bane of Agony, however, this talent affects both of them now, but so we're going to take it regardless. Improve lifetime.
This is the most British talent, by the way. It will turn you into a proper English gent. Big into our Doom and Gloom over here. Improve lifetime.
Take that one. Improve corruption. And corruption is pretty much the core Affliction skill. It just stays on the target the whole time. Benefits from all your haste and crit and everything. So improve corruption, no brainer. Jinx. This is an interesting one. I've already got my talents locked in, so I can show you this. If I cast this on a dummy, it means that it puts an AoE. It's now no longer just a single target. It puts an aura around whatever target you put it on. So if you click on the dummies around us, you can see that they've got a different icon. It's called Jinx Curse of Elements. Exactly the same buff as Curse of Elements, just different to show that it's part of an aura and linked to the target that's got Curse of Elements on. This does mean that if the target with Curse of Elements dies, all the other targets lose the buff. So probably both best to cast it on the boss. Or something you're convinced will live a long time. And then we got Soul Siphon. It increases basically your drain, your channel cast spells, the damage they do, and this is basically for the number of get this right. For the number of dots on the target increases the benefit of this. And Siphon Life, again, you're going to want to take this. This gives you a chance to heal whilst doing damage. You should actually unlock another tier. You've got Eradication. This is a haste buff, which is procced off of corruption. Soul Swap. This is very interesting. Once you've locked these talents in, we'll show you how this works. It essentially allows you to remove your dots from a target and place them on another target with full duration. It's incredibly useful. This target switching to slow target switching was a real down point of Affliction before. Shadow Embrace, this is the main sort of shadow damage buff you're putting on the target. Both Haunt and Shadow Bolt proc this, and it stacks up to 3 times, increasing your damage, your shadow periodic damage. So you're going to want to get that up as soon as possible. Death's Embrace, again, this is your execute kind of talent. When it's on 25% health or lower, you do bucket loads more damage. Nightfall, this is just adds a reactive element to it, where it occasionally gives you an instant cast Shadow Bolt.
Right.
Soulburn, Seed of Corruption, not strictly a straight DPS increase, or certainly on single target, as it's an AoE ability, but it adds an additional Soulburn effect. So when you use a Soul Shard, you can now empower a Seed of Corruption, and this means that you can spread Corruption, the spell Corruption, to multiple targets with it. It's an interesting spell. Everlasting Affliction. Again, this is just straight increased damage essentially, and it also adds. It also means that certain spells will refresh your corruption. This is what really makes. This means that once you've got a corruption on the target, you can just keep it up. Pandemic. Again, this is. It means that once it's your target's on low health, you have your Drained Soul will now refresh your Unstable Affliction, which will be one of your main damage dots. So essentially, because with Everlasting Affliction and Pandemic together, it means that both Corruption and Unstable Affliction are refreshed by casting Drained Soul. So on the 25% or less,
all you do is spam Drained Soul. basically.
And then finally onto Haunt. Haunt's the main debuff you're going to put on. It's got an interesting long description, but it essentially means that you cause all your spells do more damage when Haunt is on. And when it ends or is dispelled, you regain some health. So Affliction is regenerating health with Siphon Life and Haunt. Now we're into the Flash Talents.
Okay.
Again, it's hard to see why you wouldn't take Bane and Shadow and Flame. Shadow and Flame, again, just straight increase to your main nukes and a 5% crit debuff. And Bane also reduces the casting time of your Shadow Bolt, which is going to be your main nuke. Now I've seen some people spec now with the last points into Improved Soulfire, which would give you the haste buff. Now, whether or not this gives you a DPS increase is up for debate. I personally don't like the idea of casting fire spells in Affliction.
It doesn't seem like it's intended, does it? Because they don't give you any buff to that, and I would say, bear in mind this is from my complete novice perspective, but just having a look at it from a design point of view, this is a must-have talent for every spec unless they move it down a tier, at which point obviously you can't touch it. So it just seems very likely that they might do that. Right now, it might be worth having, but for the moment, I think we're just going to stay away from it because we're making this assumption that it's not going to be the case on live.
So in that case, I mean, you could take Improved Soulfire, but we're going to go with Dark Arts. Just increases your pet's your pet's damage essentially. Yeah. So that should be everything. Lock it in.
Oh, we've got 1 point left. Where do we put it? Yeah, apparently. Have I messed something up? I've got 31 points in Affliction, 6 points in Destruction.
Have you got Improved Seed of Corruption, Soulbound Seed of Corruption?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Again, it's not a strict DPS increase, but it's an extra ability. That point could be up for grabs.
Indeed. Well, like Ghostcrawler said, they're looking for about 7 or 8 points that you can put into things that are not set in stone. There will be optimal DPS specs, but there are certain talents you can just take for utility, and certain talents you can swap around for particular fights, so you should be able to figure that one out for yourself. Okay, locking that one in, and I think we need to use some Dust of Disappearance to wipe out some of these glyphs.
Indeed. Now, again, there's multiple glyphs you could use here. I mean, you've got Unstable Affliction, which reduces the casting time of your Unstable Affliction. This is going to be a spell you're going to be casting every every few seconds, I suppose, every 15 seconds. Yeah. You're gonna, I mean, it could be a benefit, obviously, reduce casting time on it, but it's only got 1 second cast, 1.3 second cast on this character. So I mean, I'm not certain how much of a DPS increase that is. We've also got Haunt. Now this is just an absolute no-brainer. Haunt increases all damage you do, so adding a bonus of 3% to that all damage is very useful. Again, it's difficult to say here. Corruption. This is identical to Nightfall, the talent, which gives you the instant cast sulfur.
I assume this stacks. One would have to assume, yeah?
I don't know for sure, but if it did, then it would be a benefit to take this glyph. I don't know if it's much of a DPS increase, but certainly having extra instant cast spells is always good. Okay. And so, yeah, I suppose there we've got Bane of Agony as well, which increases the duration of your Bane of Agony. Again, difficult to see how much this is going to increase your DPS. You're going to be casting Bane of Agony less often. I mean, I don't know how this glyph affects the DPS, because as far as I'm aware, Bane of Agony always used to ramp up in damage the longer it was on a target. So I don't know how adding the extra 4 seconds affects the damage of that.
Well, you're going to get at least an extra tick out of that, so maybe you'll get some extra, you never know. But whatever the case, you can assume that not having to recast it is going to save you a bit of a global cooldown over the course of a certain amount of time. So,
taking Haunt, Bane of Agony, and I suppose Corruption, for sake of argument. Again, this might not be optimal. It could be Unstable Affliction there. It's up to you.
Yep. And indeed, I'm sure the Theory Craft, eventually, once the game goes live and we know exactly what's going on, will appear, and you'll be able to go optimal by simply looking at certain forms like Elitist Jerks. Right, major glyphs.
Now here, we've definitely got one we want to take, Glyph of Soul Swap. So I think I've got Fear, Shadow Bolt, and a Soul Link locked in here, so I'm going to replace Soul Link with Soul Swap. Soul Swap glyph means that when you pull your dots off a target, they aren't dispelled off that target, they remain with whatever duration they had when you cast it, which allows you to place a full duration set of dots on another target. So you're essentially damaging 2 targets with close to the most damage you'd be doing. It moves the 3 core actual damaging spells across. Yeah, Glyph of Soul Swap, but definite taker. I keep Glyph of Fear and probably Glyph of Shadow Bolt. I mean, we're going to be using Shadow Bolt as our main nuke here, so less mana on it, always good.
Fair enough. Okay.
Right.
Okay, let's have a look at some bars.
Now, you're going to want Shadow Bolt is your main nuke, so put that wherever you're comfortable with it. Now, the other 3 spells you're going to want to be keeping on targets are Bane of Agony, Unstable Affliction, and Corruption. Corruption is refreshed by Haunt, and Haunt has a lot shorter cooldown than the duration of Corruption. So once Corruption's up, you shouldn't have to recast it unless you switch targets, of course. So you're going to want to cast. I mean, again, I'm not certain on this whether it's best to cast Haunt at the end of its duration or as soon as it comes off cooldown. I tend to cast it as soon as it comes off cooldown, but we'll get to that when we get to the actual rotations. And Bane of Agony, of course. I'm going to put Curse of Elements up, so you don't have to. And you're going to want to use the Fell Hunter here. The Fell Hunter does additional damage, as a Shadow Bolt Bite is its main nuke, and it does more damage for each damage over time effect on the target. So that's why you're going to be using that here. And I've actually noticed that I didn't realise that they changed Fell Intelligence. It's something I didn't realise. It now increases your maximum mana by a fairly small amount, to be honest, and gives you a mana regen, a raid-wide buff.
Indeed. Acts like Blessing of Wisdom. So you can replace that if you don't want any stinking paladins. Always a good thing.
Okay, so you should have Bane of Agony, Haunt, Shadow Bolt, Unstable Affliction, and Corruption on your bars.
Yep.
And Soul Swap.
Do we use Immolate with this spec?
No, you can't have Immolate and Unstable Affliction on the same target, sir. So.
Oh, of course, yeah, so we can get rid of that. There we go, let's make this a little bit easier on the bars. Bump everything along. Don't think we need that Hellfire there. Or this. Bear in mind, folks, of course, this is just what you need for your rotation. Your bars are not going to look like this, because you need all of your nice utility stuff and your cooldown stuff on as well. This is just to show you a rotation and priority order.
Indeed. So get all your standard Warlock buffs up, so Soul Link to your pet, get your Fell Armour up, and cast Dark Intent on me.
Keep losing me bloody Fell Armour. Where did it go? It reminds me, actually, of one time when I think it was around New Year's a few years ago, and we were on WoW Radio, and we were doing a sort of live stream, and someone challenged me to a duel, but my bars were completely broken, so I did the duel using my spellbook, which was suboptimal, to say the least. I believe I did lose that, unsurprisingly. Right, okay. Let's give it a bash.
Okay, so with the talent, I think it's Shadowed Embrace, I forget the name of it. It essentially means that when we get a Shadow Bolt or Haunt on the target, we get the stacking debuff. Yeah, Shadow Embrace. So most people tend to open with a precast Shadow Bolt. Again, there's lots of debates about what the exact order of opening spells are, but for the sake of this, open with a Shadow Bolt. I've got Curse of Elements up, so you don't need to put it up. Then Haunt, then Bane of Agony, Unstable Affliction, and Corruption. I mean, there's probably an optimal order to do that, but just get all those buffs up. Then you're going to want to cast Haunt as soon as it's off cooldown, and just keep an eye on all of your other dots. Remembering that Unstable Affliction has a cast time, but no fly time. Haunt has a cast time and a fly time, so it doesn't take effect until it lands. And Bane of Agony is instant cast.
There we go. Much easier now that I've made the quartz bar a little bit bigger.
Oops. Cocking up a little bit there. That's me, sorry. We can talk about the Soul Swap mechanic here, where if you use your Soul Swap, it pulls off your 3 main dots, which are Unstable Affliction, Bane of Agony, and Corruption, and you can then kind of breathe them onto a new target. And they'll be they'll have the full duration. So whatever duration they're on when you pull them off, they'll be on your top duration. So when you switch targets, you're not going to take Haunt and Shadow Embrace with you. So you're going to want to put Haunt up as soon as you've done that, and start spamming Shadow Bolts as soon as possible. Oh, I got an instant cast one there. And so this really does allow you to very quickly resume high damage on another target.
It's good stuff. Also very useful for stuff like Valiona and Thoralion. Any kind of dual targets fight is going to benefit an awful lot from that.
Again, we haven't really talked about Fell Flame, the new buff. This refreshes Unstable Affliction. Again, I'm not certain exactly whether recasting Unstable Affliction or using Fell Flame to add duration to it is going to be better. Again, this is something for, I imagine it'll be more situational, but I'm sure people will come up with an answer which is better.
Yeah. Well, one way or the other, you're going to be moving quite a bit, so keeping your dots ticking on for a little bit longer while you're doing that is always a good thing. Without a question. Then cast Infernals and hope for the best. Well, that's what you need to do for your Affliction rotation, folks. When we come back after this, we're going to be looking at the Soul Shard mechanics. Or have we forgotten
I just thought of something we've forgotten. We haven't really talked about the Decimate phase. We can't try it out here. But essentially, you're no longer when you're in Decimate, you use Drain Soul, which so Decimate I mean below 25% HP.
Your execute phase basically.
You use. I've lost it off my bars now. Drain Soul, which you're casting. This will refresh your Unstable Affliction and your Corruption, so you will still need to cast Haunt and you will still need to cast Bane of Agony, but your rotation is greatly simplified on low health. So get all your dots up, and then
cast Haunt when it's off cooldown. Still good for Bane of Agony.
Every tick this does will refresh 2 of those dots, and then you'll need to put up the other ones. Below 25%, this does a ton of damage, so I really like what they've done here.
Yep, that's your Warlock chill-out phase, where with everybody else it's your panic phase, generally speaking.
Indeed. Right, that's about it.
Alright, indeed. When we come back after this, we're going to have a look at some Soul Shard mechanics. We're going to show you the concept of Soul Burn, what it does to the various different abilities that you're going to have at your disposal, and we're also going to talk about the 3 new spells available in Cataclysm at 81, 83, and 85. My name's been TotalBiscuit, here with special guest Optec. Check out his channel. I'll put a link at the top of the screen right there in the annotation, and also in the description below. Go subscribe to him if you want some more Warlocky goodness. We'll be right back after this, folks. Enjoy.